Jeremy Clarkson would quit UK for good. All right, so Jeremy Clarkson has officially had enough. The man who once punched a producer over a steak has now declared he'd rather leave Britain entirely than deal with what he calls modern Britain under Labour. But before I proceed, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more updates on the UK political insight. Thank you. And honestly, given his track record with patience, I'm shocked it took this long. But here's the thing. He's not just moaning into his pint at the local pub. He's actually raising some points that have got half the country nodding along and the other half absolutely fuming. So buckle up, because we're diving into why one of Britain's most famous petrol heads is seriously considering trading his Cotswolds farm for a one-way ticket out. Now, before anyone accuses me of bias, let me be clear, this is Jeremy Clarkson we're talking about. The man could find something to complain about in paradise, but when someone with his platform starts talking about abandoning ship, it's worth paying attention to what's got him so riled up. And spoiler alert, it's not just about him. It's about Labour's autumn budget, taxation, and what he sees as a complete betrayal of anyone who dares to work hard and build something. So what's actually happened here? Well, Clarkson's latest column in The Times has basically become a manifesto for everyone who thinks Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves are running Britain like it's a social experiment gone wrong. And he's not holding back. The Clarkson farm star has gone full scorched earth on the government, claiming that if he were 24 years old today, he wouldn't even bother trying to work. Instead, he'd stay home, game the system, and apparently invent mental health issues for extra benefits. Now, that's obviously provocative, and yes, it's vintage Clarkson hyperbole. But underneath the trademark sarcasm, there's a genuine frustration that resonates with millions of Brits who feel like the playing field has been tilted against anyone who wants to actually achieve something. Let's talk about what triggered this particular meltdown: the autumn budget. Rachel Reeves stood up in Parliament and announced a series of measures that, depending on who you ask, either save the NHS or destroy entrepreneurship forever. Taxes went up for working people, the two-child benefit cap got lifted, which sounds compassionate until you realize someone has to pay for it, and Clarkson, who's been watching his own farming operation hemorrhage money faster than a government infrastructure project, has decided he's seen enough. Here's where it gets interesting, though. Clarkson absolutely demolished what he sees as the prevailing attitude on social media. He pointed out that young people with pink hair are constantly chanting about taxing the rich, apparently under the delusion that if the government just confiscated all of Elton John's money, suddenly everyone on benefits could afford a Porsche. And look, he's exaggerating for a fact, but he's touching on something real here. There is this bizarre fantasy floating around that wealthy people are just sitting on massive piles of cash that could solve all our problems if we just redistributed it. Never mind that wealthy people typically don't keep their money in a Scrooge McDuck vault. It's invested, it's creating jobs, it's doing things. But facts have never been social media's strong suit. What's absolutely wild is Clarkson's claim that entrepreneurs would be better off promising to never work a day in their lives if they want grants from their local council. Think about that for a second. We've apparently created a system where ambition is suspicious, but dependency is rewarded. That's not how you build a thriving economy. That's how you build a country that slowly bankrupts itself while wondering why nothing works anymore. But then Clarkson drops what might be his most controversial line. If you were 24 today, he claims he'd stay home making babies for money and inventing mental health issues for extra benefits. Now, that's obviously provocative, and yes, it's vintage Clarkson hyperbole, but underneath the trademark sarcasm, there's a genuine frustration that resonates with millions of Brits who feel like the playing field has been tilted against anyone who wants to actually achieve something. The really telling part, though, is where Clarkson reveals he's been spending time in Costa Rica, and his own children are seriously considering not coming back to the UK. Let that sink in for a moment. His kids, who presumably have opportunities and resources most people can only dream of, are looking at modern Britain under Labour and thinking, actually, no thanks. Clarkson says they're tempted to stay abroad because, and these are his words, in the UK, it's difficult to get on the bottom rung of the ladder and impossible to climb it up it, because Rachel Reeves doesn't believe in that sort of thing. Not at her core. It revolts her. That's absolutely savage, and it cuts right to the heart of what's becoming a proper ideological divide in this country. On one side, you got people who believe in aspiration, entrepreneurship, and the idea that if you work hard and take risks, you should be able to build something better for yourself. On the other side, you've got people who see that entire mindset as somehow morally suspect, as if wanting to succeed is just greed dressed up in business casual. And when you've got a chancellor who apparently falls into that second category, well, that's when people like Clarkson start looking at property prices in Central America. Now, to add a layer of almost comic irony to all this, Clarkson recently joked that farming has been so unprofitable that he's considering becoming a contestant on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire instead of hosting it. He literally posted a picture of himself sitting in the contestant's chair. And while that's obviously a gag, it speaks to a larger truth about British agriculture right now. The sector is on its knees. Farmers are getting older, fewer young people want to take it on, and government policy seems designed by people who think food just magically appears in Waitrose. Clarkson's very public farming venture has pulled back the curtain on just how economically brutal the industry actually is, and now he's watching a government pile on more costs, more regulations, and more taxes while apparently expecting farmers to just absorb it all with a cheerful smile and a can-do attitude. Here's the bit that should genuinely worry people, regardless of whether you think Clarkson is a genius or just a professional wind-up merchant. When successful people start talking seriously about leaving, that's not just tabloid gossip, that's a warning sign. Britain has form on this. We've done the whole tax and regulate the wealthy into submission thing before, and it didn't end well. Capital is mobile. Talent is mobile. If you make it sufficiently unappealing to build a business or a career in the UK, people will simply go somewhere else, and they'll take their tax revenue, their job creation, and their economic activity with them.
But given these poll numbers, you can see why she's going for the jugular. But let's talk about some of the other goodies buried in this budget, shall we? Because it's not just about frozen tax thresholds and pension chaos. Reeves has also decided to increase income tax charges on savings. So if you've been sensible, put some money aside, and are trying to earn a bit of interest, congratulations, you're now being penalized for it. There's also an increase to dividend tax, which hits anyone with investments. And if you've been using salary sacrifice pension contributions to try to be clever with your tax planning, well, there's now a limit on those tax advantages too. It's like the government looked at every possible way people might be trying to secure their financial future and decided to stick a tax on it. Financial prudence, punished. Investing for retirement, taxed. Saving for a rainy day, more tax, please. Now, to be fair, pensioners did get something positive out of this budget. There's a 4.8% rise coming, which adds roughly £574 a year to the new state pension and £439 to the basic state pension. That's actually a decent increase, and it'll help a lot of older people deal with rising costs. But here's the thing. When you announce a pension rise in the same breath as overhauling the system so thousands might lose out on full payments, the good news gets completely drowned out. It's like giving someone a tenner and then immediately asking them for 20 quid back. What's really striking about this budget is how comprehensively it's broken Labour's election promises. They campaigned on protecting working people. They talked about fairness, about making sure the wealthy paid their share while ordinary folks got a break. Instead, we've got fiscal drag pulling millions into higher tax brackets, pension changes that'll hurt thousands, and a whole raft of tax increases on savings and investments that hit exactly the middle-income earners Labour claimed to champion. It's political malpractice on a grand scale. And the timing couldn't be worse for Starmer. His government is still relatively new, and already they're hemorrhaging goodwill faster than you can say early election. These GB News poll numbers are genuinely shocking because they show an almost complete absence of public support for this